Real Country 1430 AM and 107.3 FM WRDN. I'm Brian Winnekins. Joining us today is Durand-Arkansaw School Superintendent Greg Doverspike as we talk about the meeting, the school board meeting from the 20th. And Superintendent Doverspike, thank you for joining us today. Well, a lot of stuff happening at the last school board meeting, but some of it is just kind of like routine. And I guess that is the academic standards that have to be approved, and then they'll have to go before a public hearing. But this is something that there's no big change. It's just department. It's kind of like, with the FCC, there's a form you got to fill out every year, EEO report. That's kind of like the same thing. It's something you got to do every year.
Yeah, every year. The state legislature passed this probably, 5-6 years, maybe more now. I've lost track, but every year we have to go through a formal process where we have to approve our academic standards in math, science, reading, writing, geography, history, and financial literacy. And then the board has to approve the location. We have those standards on our website, which is under our annual notices on our website. Like I told the board, our standards haven't changed in my entire tenure here that I can think of. So it's not like we're trying to sneak something in the back door and teach a bunch of new thoughts, philosophies, or whatever. It's the same standards we've always had. It's just a formal approval process we have to go through to, as you said, check the box and show that it's in board minutes that we did it, in case anybody has a question or wants to debate it, or we get audited by the state. So it's, like I said, it's just a box checking thing we have to do on an annual basis.
And Greg, to change those standards, you haven't had to do anything like that in the 10 years you're here, but I mean, what's involved to do that? Does that first have to come from DPI saying you must have so much in math, or you must have so much in chemistry or science? I mean, where does all of that come from or can you just do it on your own?
It can come two ways, Brian. DPI puts out model academic standards, and they upgrade them every once in a while. They'll start a team that'll look over the standards, and they're usually broken up by, you will learn this, and this, and they're use a bunch of finagled educational language by this grade level, and this, and this by this grade level, and this, and this by this grade level. And then as a staff, you say like, all right, I covered this standard and this unit, this lesson, this, this section at this grade level. And you kind of do a unpacking of the standards when you do a curriculum review to make sure you're hitting the standards that you want to hit. Like you said, or we can create our own local standards. Typically you take the state standards, but you don't necessarily cover all of them, because you might pick and choose the ones that you do or you do not want to cover based on local opinions, local, culture, climate, those kind of things. But the model academic standards created by the state are typically relatively vanilla. It's more task orientated. You will teach addition, you will teach multi-step, multiplication processes, or you will teach about World War II or whatever. It's the Holocaust. You must teach about the Native American societies in Wisconsin. Those kind of things that some of them are actually state statute based. The legislature might pass, like they have with the Holocaust recently. But typically, the standards are pretty vanilla, and then you as a local entity decide how you want to meet those standards, and that's kind of where some of the choice might get to come in terms of curriculum materials, and that stuff then we take through our CIT committee and our board for approval. And we are very very middle of the road conservative in how we approach that stuff. We're not getting into any of the new stuff that people are talking about. We're pretty we're a little old fashioned. We're trying to improve and modernize our teaching practices, but the material is still pretty similar to what I was taught. The content is pretty similar to what I was taught when I was in school.
Talking with Durand-Arkansaw School Superintendent Greg Doverspike. Another one of these check your boxes thing is, and this is for ESSER money. You may have to describe what ESSER money is, but having a back to school plan. Again, this is just something, you want the cash, check this box. That's really all it is.
Yeah, the ESSER money, it's a great question. I'm glad you brought this up because it's going to be on next month's agenda. And I just want everybody to clearly understand this is ESSER money is our COVID relief money. It came to us in 3 different batches, ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3. One of the requirements of ESSER 3, in order to get the money, which was the largest pot of money we got, which for us was over $1 million, was we had to have a back to school plan that needed to be put before a public hearing every 6 months. It needed to be documented on the board agenda. The public could give input on it, and then it gets approved by the board. I can tell you right, so when you see it on the August agenda, it isn't meaning that we're creating some, newfangled process of COVID. I actually went through it yesterday afternoon, and reread it, and there's really no changes I'm proposing we make to it. If anything, we're actually continuing to pull back on things, and moving more towards, COVID is another illness like flu, colds, et cetera, is more of the approach that we're taking with it that I'm going to be recommending, to the board. But yeah, when you see the back to school plan on there, it doesn't mean we're going back to the days of masking and mass quarantining and contact tracing. That's not at all what it is.
So in other words, the only change might be the date.
Correct.
Meanwhile, you mentioned that ESSER money. Has that helped the district? Because you reported that it looks like the district's going to have a balanced budget this coming year.
Yeah, there's been some things that, and we've used our ESSER money in what we feel are smart ways. Every school district is using them differently. And every school board has to make the decision of how they feel it's best to use. We've used it more for us to purchase technology, maybe we did a couple of facility projects in the term of a boiler project to help us out. It could be some new curriculum resources in some areas that we're going through right now, some professional development for staff, on teaching practices and student-based learning. And we've added a couple of intervention type positions to it that, have helped. So yeah, the budget has helped us. The money probably less has to do with helping us balance the budget and more has to do with just helping us purchase new materials, new practices, technology, things like that, are those one-time purchases you might make, because sometimes you get in trouble when you, in our opinion, when you start making them on, budgetary items that you are continue to happen, because then when the ESSER money runs out, they refer to it as a financial cliff. You need to make difficult decisions. I think what's really helped us with budget over the last few years is the district made some very good decisions, for the last 10 or 12 years on health insurance, transportation. I mean, there's a lot of different factors that have helped us come to a balanced budget. Obviously, the referendum projects have reduced some maintenance costs, made us more energy efficient. So I think there's some things like that have really helped us out as a district to really, quite honestly, be in a very good financial position. You're seeing school districts running operating referendums all the time. We are not anywhere close to having to do that. We're in good financial shape. We have a strong, healthy fund balance. We have a strong, healthy facility improvement balance. So, financially, we're in very good shape.
I know you in your report about the budget, you mentioned to the board members as well, somewhere down the road, the levy is going to drop by about $800,000. So why would the levy drop? And then what can be done to maybe mitigate that?
Well, so the levy is dropping for 2 reasons. Well, the main reason is our aid is going up. Our aid is going up because maybe our property values aren't increasing as fast as property values across the state. So therefore, based on the funding formula, they've determined, because your state aid is based off your property values of your district. So maybe the state is saying like, oh, well, the Durand-Arkansaw school district's property values aren't going up as high as some other districts, so we need to funnel some more aid money to them. Because the simple, and then the other thing, I'll go to that too. The other thing is the legislature put more money into education, but they put it in as a property tax decrease because they funneled the money through the funding formula to increase everybody's state aid, therefore decreasing the levy, therefore decreasing property taxes is the argument. Because the simplest way to look at state funding is A plus B equals C. C is the revenue limit, which is the amount of money that we're allowed to generate in the form of revenue. And then A would be the levy and B would be state aid. So if state aid goes up because C is frozen or predetermined, as the aid goes up, the levy comes down, or as the aid goes down, the levy has to go up. You know, it's a scale. They have to balance each other out to equal C. So those are the two factors why the levy has gone down, because aid has gone up. So as a district, you have a couple different options. One of the options we do have is we have the ability to do a defeasance, which would be, not let the levy drop as far as it could possibly drop. But what you do with the defeasance is then you take the money that difference and you invest it, and then use that money and the investment of it to pay back the bond debt that we have on the referendum projects earlier. So it's basically we're saving money to get out of our loan faster, would probably be the easiest way to look at it. Because unlike a personal loan or most personal loans where you can pay early, if you have extra money, you can pay early or whatever, you can pay above your annual rate. In our world, you sell bonds, and those bonds are only callable at certain times. So there's like 5-year callable bonds and 10-year callable bonds. And once they become callable, then you can call the bond back, pay it off, and move on. Because if you pay it off early, there could be a penalty because the bank uses that money to reinvest it. And you're kind of getting in the weeds that I don't always understand myself, but it's kind of the idea of we could create a defeasance, which would allow us to pay off that bond debt earlier, which then would save obviously the taxpayer a lot of money on interest, and having to pay that referendum debt. If we could get that paid off in, let's say, 18 years instead of 20 years, we'd save on those last 2 years for all the taxpayers.
You know what? I think I finally figured out what calculus is used for: school funding.
Yeah, you're about right.
Because it is the most confusing thing I've ever seen. Talking with Durand-Arkansaw School Superintendent Greg Doverspike. Also for the students with Chromebooks, there's going to be a little bit of change coming up this year.
Yeah, we've decided to move away from the Chromebook fee. And instead, we're charging a flat $25 for kids in the grades 6 through 12. And that fee, we got rid of the fee, and then we're charging the $25, which is basically going to be paying for an extended warranty on the devices. So basically parents are no longer going to have to pay a fee for the Chromebook, plus those of them that bought insurance are not going to have to buy insurance. Instead, we're just charging everybody $25, and that will cover the insurance type concept, the extra warranty that we have on the devices. So, it's cleaner, it's better. And that way we know that all those devices are protected. We understand life happens. We understand kids. We understand things break. And that just helps protect that device for not only the district, but also the families and the students.
Adults break things too. Just look at me and I'll tell you, I could probably break a Chromebook pretty quickly. So I would need the extra insurance. Speaking of technology and the internet, the district has a new website and a new app. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we've kind of started down this process, I don't know, probably 8 months ago now, and it's a slow process. And in the middle of everything else going on last year, we didn't tackle it with, as quickly as we could have. We kind of slow played it a little bit just because we had a lot going on. But we have a new website for those of you that have gone to our district website, and it's, we've kind of called it a soft launch because we just wanted to get the bugs worked out, and it's ever evolving. It's changing. We still have work to do on it, as you do with any website. There's always things to add, always things to change, things to update, but we're working on it. And then one of the reasons we went to this new website vendor is they have an app. So you can go to your Google store or your Apple devices and go to the App Store and download the Durand-Arkansaw School District app. And then there's features on that app related to lunch menus and staff directories and calendars. So you can, get athletic calendars or school calendars. So there's, it's kind of our first foray into an app. I know a lot of school districts have them, and we were kind of late to the game. Part of it, was just other things going on. Part of it was, we just decided to focus our energy on something else. But yeah, we have a new app and a new website. So we're really excited about those. Ryan Beeman, our IT coordinator, and Linda Comro, the executive assistant in the district office, have done a tremendous job. Ryan more with the behind the scenes stuff and getting content moved over and making sure that, all those things that happen in the tech world happen correctly. And then Linda has been in charge of a lot of the uploading and the updating of the data that's on it and what you see. And like I said, we still have a lot of work left to do on it, but we're really excited about the possibilities it brings for us.
Talking with Durand-Arkansaw School Superintendent Greg Doverspike this morning, we have some new principals in the building. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we're really excited. We lost two administrators last year. One retired and one took a position at CISA 11. So it was an opportunity for us as a district to evaluate how we have our administrative structure. And we made a decision to make a change with our admin structure for various reasons. So what we ended up doing is we hired a high school principal, athletic director. We originally had a dean of students AD scheduled to start this year, but so we eliminated that position, moved the individual in that position to high school principal and athletic director. And then we hired a middle school principal, and that's also going to be in charge of curriculum for this building. We just felt like at this time it was what we needed to do for the best interest of the district, both short term and long term. We're really excited. We have Stephen Trudeau, came to us from Hudson Middle School, is going to be the high school principal and athletic director. You'll get to see him at events, and he's actually closing on his house in town. He's moving into the city of Durand, closing on his house the end of July. I'm sorry. So he'll be moving to town. And then Sarah Sabelko, who's a familiar face, Durand grad, taught for us for a few years before spending the last year in River Falls, is coming back as our middle school principal and curriculum coordinator. They're both doing a tremendous job. I think as kind of the elder statesman of the group now, going into my 11th year, I've enjoyed the fresh perspective they've brought. Sometimes after being in a district this long, you kind of, you forget, you don't see things. It's nice to have somebody come in that sees things differently than you do and brings in some fresh ideas from experiences that they've had. And so I'm really excited. So far, I've had great meetings with them, great conversations. They've done a tremendous amount of work. They're doing a great job. In fact, today we're meeting, I am with the two of them just to go through a bunch of different stuff related to the building and how we're going to operate the building this year and new plans we have. And they've come with a tremendous amount of ideas. They got a lot of the work done already for me. So they're very well prepared. So I've been really, really happy with how things are going. I'm really excited for next school year and what the year can bring.
Meanwhile, I've seen statewide stories on this, like a lot of times coming from Southeast Wisconsin, like the Waukesha school districts had so many teachers leave and they're having a hard time finding teachers. And that's really not an anomaly. That's happening nationwide and even, statewide and nationwide. But even for our school district, we're going to have a unique way to have chemistry taught. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we're no different than every school. Every school district is seeing teacher shortages, and kind of the expectation is it's going to get worse before it gets better. So as a school district, you need to start looking at alternative ways to provide instruction to students. And one of the things that we did last year actually is we had our Spanish teacher was teaching remote from a different part of the state and then the country. And the experience went really well. Not everybody can do it. It's kind of takes a special skill set, just like not everybody can go through virtual school. So it takes a special skill set to do it. She did a phenomenal job by all accounts. She's actually going to be in the building this year. So we're really excited about having her in person. But we weren't able to fill a vacant chemistry position we had. So what we're going to do is do it via live stream for this school year. See how it goes, but then I think our long-term plan is still to post it for the position during more of the regular hiring season. It was a late resignation for us. Post it during the regular hiring season and still try to get somebody in person. We still believe that's the best option. But all things being, you still want to put a quality educator in front of your kids. So and so we decided that this was the best option for our district and our kids for this year. So that's what we're going to do for this year. And next year, hopefully we'll have somebody in person again. But, I think more and more districts are going to be having these conversations about how to offer education to kids this way. I don't think this is going to become a rare occurrence. I think it's going to become more of the norm in different educational settings, different districts for some of those hard to fill areas. I mean, there's certain positions that you just aren't getting applicants for. I was in a meeting recently with a couple of school districts in our conference that are still looking for English teachers. And we're almost the 1st of August now. And you're getting late in the game to try to bring on an English teacher. So, they're going to be having these conversations as well. This is just kind of the wave of the future, I think, because there just aren't enough people going into the profession. And as this baby boomer generation is all retiring, we don't have enough people to fill it. Just like, I don't think we're immune to what other industries are seeing with shortages. No matter who I talk to, it seems like everybody's short workers. Well, we're no different. So we are seeing a teaching shortage. So we're just having to be like other industries in the private sector are. We're having to be more creative in how we fill.
How will the labs work in chemistry? Because there's a lot of that, so if chemistry teacher Greg is teaching chemistry student Brian from remotely, I can tell you right now, chemistry student Brian's going to be saying, let's shake this up and watch it fizz. And there's not a lot you can do to stop it. So
right.
How will that work?
Well, we will have an adult in the room with the students as a local mentor supervisor. It's not like we're going to just have a bunch of kids watch TV by themselves and not have an adult in there to stop student Brian from being student Brian. We're going to try to avoid you shaking it up and trying to blow up the school. Or setting off the fire alarm. So what we're going to do is we'll have a local person in the district that'll be in the room to kind of help with the management and facilitation. But then also in our conversations or start of our conversations, I think that individual is going to try to, come to our district on occasion and be in person. And maybe it's during some of those lab type settings. And, there's still going to be the opportunity for that individual to monitor it from afar through cameras. It's amazing what cameras can pick up now. So, and some of those are bumps we're going to have to work out as we go. We're fully aware of that. This might not be the most ideal situation, but it's where we are. And, it's becoming more and more prevalent at the college level as well. Some labs have become all virtual labs. You do it all on a computer instead of in person. So there's less risk of student Brian doing what student Brian wants to do. He can do it on the computer and nothing happens versus in person. So I think there's some kinks we're gonna have to work out, but we're confident we can do it.
That is Durand-Arkansaw School Superintendent Greg Doverspike. You're listening to Real Country 1430 AM and 107.3 FM WRDN.